spoke about last week, the Masechtas Erevin speaks about the Reshis HaRabim and the Reshis HaYochid. The Reshis HaRabim is when you see life in the form of separate entities. And that's the world of the Klippos. Where there could be all types of possibilities for damage because there's not one united goal in the world. There's not one united goal in life. Life is not united, life is fragmented. But the Reshis HaYochid is when a person realizes that life, all of life connects to one beginning, to one source. And it's run by that source in order to create reality, to create perfection, to create life the way that it needs to be. So then life becomes Reshis HaYochid, and that allows a person to experience Shabbos. Because Shabbos is the realization that everything is here for a purpose, and therefore it's kula malachta asi. You don't have to do anything to complete it because nature already did all the work for you. And you come to a ready-made thing. So it says, Reshus HaRabim u'mitzad ha'pirud ha'nigle, that we see in this world many different koiches. So when we see different koiches, we call this world the Reshus HaRabim. It seems like everything is working on its own. Everybody can do whatever they want. Every person has his own way about going about life, and then whatever happens to him seems to be a result of his efforts, a result of what he's doing. And that causes the world to seem like Reshus HaRabim, like there's so many people who have different ideas about what life is, and they all get to do whatever they want, so it doesn't come together to a unity. V'yesh eitzes, the Torah gives you eitzes, sheyeh naseh Reshus HaRabim Reshus HaYochid kanal, that the Reshus HaRabim should become a Reshus HaYochid, meaning that you can take the world that is a Reshus HaRabim, and by analyzing it correctly, by realizing what it really is, by recognizing the true nature of life, it becomes a Reshus HaYochid. Shezeu tachlis avodah, this is the tachlis of the whole Torah. The purpose of the Torah is to make this world into Reshus HaYochid, so that we can have the Yom Shekula Shabbos. V'lamdu mepischa shel heichel. They learned about Erevin from the opening of the heichel in the Beis Hamikdash. Ratza lemer keseder haknisa el ha'heichel shehi ha'kedusha hashniya milemala lamata beseder hatzor kedusha sof perikam de kelim. So in kelim, they count the 10 the holiest places for Klal Yisrael, and it goes Chasidim. It starts with Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the Malchus, is the biggest area of kedusha. And then as you go closer, you go to Yerushalayim, you go to the Azor, you go to the Heichel, you go to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it gets holier and holier. So one before the last Kedusha is the Kedusha of the Heichel itself. And the only Kedusha that's beyond that is the Kedusha of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is Lifnei V'Niflim. So it says by the Heichel that in the Heichel you only go in after washing your hands. And in the Kodesh HaKadoshim you don't go in at all, except the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. So he says that the Kedusha of the Heichel remezes al Kedushas HaMachshova HaNiglis b'moyach. So the Heichel represents the Machshova HaNiglis, the Machshova that a person could think, which starts with Chochmah. Masha'enken Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holiest of holy, remes la'omek haratzoin, to the depth of the desire and the will, v'reishis HaMachshova k'mo shezbah mokamacha b'ferish Mishnah Sham. So he's saying the Kodesh HaKadoshim is the pnimius of the will, of the desire of a person. And that place a person doesn't go into bichlal. Only the Kohen Gadol goes in on Yom Kippur. What happens on Yom Kippur? It's a day where there's lo achile v'lo shtia, and the person is completely separated from manifesting in this world. He's only busy with sichlius. He's only busy with the ruchnius inside of him. And at that time, the Kohen Gadol, who is the holiest of all the neshamas, and Yom Kippur, the holiest of all days, the holiest time, the holiest soul, goes into the holiest place, and that makes a special yichud between Olam Shona and Nefesh that can happen only on Yom Kippur. But the Heichel, which represents the second Kedusha, which represents the Chochmah as it's already coming out from the Ratzon, as it's already becoming real. So that Heichel you don't go into without richitz she'ein nichnosin l'sham shelo richitz yadayim v'raglayim. You have to first wash your hands and your feet. So it says, what does it mean to wash your hands and the feet? Ratza loymar menuka v'klei ha'maseh shezeh gam ken netilas yadayim shetikin Shlomo HaMelech alav hasholom sheyasa the Heichel. So Shlomo HaMelech, who made the Heichel, he gave us the concept of netilas yadayim. And netilas yadayim means that a person cleanses his klei hamasa. Cleansing his klei hamasa means recognizing that whatever he did with these klei hamasa, whatever happened with these klei hamasa, whatever it took him to, is the result of the desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to take him there. And therefore, through the netilas yadayim, just like in a mikveh, when a person goes into the mikveh, through bathing in the water of the mikveh, he's separating himself from all the things that he did that are unclean. So too, when he does netilas yadayim, he removes all the different hang-ups, all the different complications that his mind has with whatever happened, and he comes back to reality. He comes back to being clean. He comes back to being b'mokam ha-chochma, where the chochma is mesakim all the things that are wrong with the person. Because the chochma points the person to realize that everything that happened is part of a learning curve. It's part of recognizing reality. And therefore, as soon as a person does tshuva, which means he comes back to bina, he comes back to understanding, so then that opens the door for him to go into chochma, so that he can recognize that everything is the way that it needs to be. So Shlomo HaMelech was miyased the heichel, was miyased the netilas yadayim, Ratzolema sheyosad kedusha zu, ikemishnosa sheze atzma inyan erevin, ve'en kamokam laharech ka'esoid. So the concept of erevin is that a person takes Rishis Harabim, he takes a fragmented reality and unites it into one unit. He unites it into recognition. And what's this recognition? The recognition is that he finds that within him, he has a neshama, he has a drive, and that drive is Kodesh HaKadoshim. And a person has to start doing tshuva on all the times that he was mezalzel in that being that lives inside of him. And not only is he mezalzel in that being that lives inside of him when he's against himself, when he's against his own reality, but any time that he's mezalzel in a human being, the being inside of him gets offended, because the being inside of him is a human being. So as soon as you close your eyes, you can realize that there's somebody inside of you that inherently is blind, deaf, and dumb. Right? He doesn't have any access to the world. He doesn't have access to the senses. He doesn't have access to information. He's totally in you, the conscious mind, that you're going to absorb information from reality in order to help him. Because he's stuck. He can't do anything without you. He's just living inside of there. And to top it all off, he's listening to all your thoughts. So when a person is thinking negatively about another person, the neshama inside of him says, how can you not be ashamed? I happen to be a human being. You're telling me that human beings are no good? So even though in the imagination he thinks, no, this is this guy, this is that guy, this is the other guy, but that's not reality. So his nefesh now falls into a reality where human beings are no good. And there's no bigger discomfort for that nefesh, for a human being, than to know that it lives in a reality where human beings are no good. So that's why the Baal Shem Tov says that a tzaddik does not see evil at all. He doesn't see evil in life at all. If he does, it means that his nefesh is showing him something about himself. Otherwise, a nefesh doesn't want to see evil, doesn't want to see bad, because it gets hurt when it happens. Every time that the nefesh gets convinced that life is difficult or that people are no good, it's causing pain to the nefesh. It's causing it to feel fragmented. It's causing it to feel that it's in the Rishis Harabim. And the whole goal of the avodah of the Torah, the whole goal of the avodah that we're doing, is to create the Rishis HaYochid. The Rishis HaYochid means that everybody walking around in it knows that he belongs here. He belongs in this world. This is his place. This was created for him specifically, customized. And that can only happen when people have chokhmah. When people have chokhmah, they can tap in to their true nature, and they can create the reality where people can coexist. And their own nefesh is happy this way. Their own nefesh enjoys it this way, because in nature, we were wired that when we do good to other people, when we help other people, it causes the release of good chemicals in us. It causes us to feel like we achieved something. However, through kishuv, through getting busy with other stuff, through putting other stuff at higher importance than the human being, eventually other things seem to be much more significant, because the person has rewired his brain so that instead of releasing these chemicals when he's doing kindness to other people, it's releasing these chemicals when he earns money, or when he wins an argument, or whatever he set himself up to do, because he thinks that this is important. So now his brain is giving him the release in the wrong time, and he has to continuously run after it. And he thinks he's serving his nature, but he's not. This is not natural to him. This is a hergel. This is something that people taught him how to think. People taught him that, you give back, and then you show who you are, you show how important you are. But it's not inherently healthy, because you're degrading the level of what it means to be a human being. And that's what you are. So when you degrade a human being, you're putting yourself in a lower reality. You're traveling. You're traveling down to a lower reality where people hurt each other, where people are not looking out for each other. So the goal of the Torah is to give a person the respect that he deserves. I saw what in the Degel last week, Pashas Vayikra. So it says Vayikra is with a small aleph, because Moshe Rabbeinu was symbolizing over here that they received the Torah, even though they received it in the Midbar directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even they didn't fully understand the Torah at the depth that you can understand it. So that's why it's a small aleph. Like, they didn't receive the full depth of the Torah. And it says that based on Pasuk, V'isas achorai, ifonai lo yiroy. V'isas achorai means that you only see the back of the Torah. You only see the back end. You don't really see the full shine of the Torah, the full power that it has. But he says that when Mashiach will come, then it says, V'leikon avoid merecha, that Klal Yisrael will see HaKadosh Baruch Hu panim bepanim, and everybody is going to be Eshbech Esricha al Kol Basar, that everybody is going to be Nevi'im, and therefore we're going to be able to see the Torah in a deeper way than Moshe Rabbeinu saw it by Matan Torah. That we're going to see a higher Torah. So he says a remes from the Pasuk, Oikir Enesh Mipaz. So Oikir is the letters Vayikra. So the aleph is going to become big. It's going to become Oikir Enesh Mipaz, that a human being will be more dear, will be more important than gold and silver. Because the Torah and the human are going to merge. They're going to become one. So just like David HaMelech says, Hanechmodim mizav mipaz rav misukim midvash v'noifes tzifim, that the divrei Torah are sweeter than, they're better than money and sweeter than honey. So the same thing, when Mashiach comes, the human being will be better than money and sweeter than honey. If you can do something good for a human being, it will be more important to you than anything else you can accomplish. And it's not that difficult to imagine what a society could look like if all the effort that was put in today to earning money was put into making people's lives better, so one another can say the right things and do the right things. We can learn about ourselves. In a few days, we could learn about ourselves amounts of information, amounts of wisdom that could have taken more than a lifetime for a person who's doing it on his own. Because if that becomes the goal, look at these huge conglomerates, look at these huge corporations where you have thousands of people working one goal. Imagine if that goal was just the betterment of humanity. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu envisioned. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in mind. And when we do that, it's not difficult to understand that our life will improve exponentially to a degree that we can't imagine, because the potential of a human being is such that as long as you don't experience it, you can't relate to it. You can't imagine it. Just like the taste of a food, you can't imagine unless you've tasted it, and no matter how much somebody will describe it to you, you can't imagine it. Or the mood that you have, or when you're tired, or when you're hungry, these are all things that are met by experience. If somebody's never experienced them, he doesn't know what you're talking about. He can't relate. So we know certain moods that we have. We know certain exposures that we have. We know certain brain settings that we have. But there are many, many others that we don't know about because we've never been placed in them. So the body, the mind, the spirit is capable of so many different functions, so many different possibilities, even with the mind areas, the areas in the brain that we're already developing. Imagine if we can gain access to areas of the brain we haven't been developing because we haven't been thinking in those terms. We haven't been thinking those thoughts. We haven't been developing those areas of life that are there in our potential. They're there in our nature. They're just waiting to be accessed. And that's the reason why they were created. So that all of these can create a balance for us that creates a Rishus HaYochid, that brings everybody back to reality. That's the Rishus HaYochid. The Rishus HaYochid is what's real. The Rishus HaRabim is that everybody has a different interpretation. Everybody imagines it differently. Avizor b'malachtecho is the next piece. Hey. Avizor b'malachtecho shemalachtecho ki yedir da Torah tzir dfus kol masa bereishis. So he's saying that the Torah is the malach of a person, and the Torah is set up exactly according to reality, according to the world, according to nature. Masa bereishis means the setup of nature and how nature works. And this is talking about the physical nature and even the spiritual nature, all the way up to the nature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his involvement in reality. Meaning, how does the undefined consciousness relate to the definition of consciousness, to consciousness as it gets definition and as it becomes entangled in this world? That's called Masa Merkava, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Kaviyachal riding upon this Merkava, which is reality itself. But Masa Bereishis is the details of the nature of how this machine functions. And this is the whole Torah. The whole Torah is leading you to Masa Bereishis and Masa Merkava. Those are the secrets of the Torah, and that's the goal of understanding Torah. So the whole Arizal, everything he's discussing is you. How you work, how you function. From the moment that you start being conceived in your father's mind, before it even comes out before, and then throughout that action, where the child comes out before, all the way through the Ibur and the Leida, because this is a micro world. This is a small sample of how reality came into existence. Everything, every single detail. And it involves all the deepest oiris. So when in the zera of an individual, you have the whole koima from Adam Kadmon, Atzilis, Bri, Yetzira, they're all there in order to help create the child. Otherwise, the child wouldn't be able to come out the way that he comes out. So there are different energies, different forces. This is where the oisius get involved, the nekudos. Everything is there in order to give life to a human being in perfect balance, so that we can have this experience. So the Arizal's understanding was, how does this experience manifest itself? From the beginning of the moment of Ein Sof, where the thought is completely unfocused, all the way through to an actual thought, or an actual dibur, or maise, because this is the ingredients of what creates reality. So all of the Kabbalah basically is trying to recognize, how does one thought manifest? Because if you understand one thought, you understand all thoughts. If you understand the framework of how things manifest into life, then you understand nature, you understand life. And these are the Chamishim Sha'arei Bina that Moshe Rabbeinu was working on, and he only got 49. And through these Sha'arim, through the wisdom of these Sha'arim, which is understanding life, understanding the different functions of life and how they manifest, and the different types of life, and the different manifestations, like the animals and the trees and the elements. So through understanding that, Moshe Rabbeinu could give us the Torah the way that he gave it to us. So he's not talking about an imagined reality. He's not talking about something that's happening somewhere else, and you have to serve that. Because if you do, Chaz v'sholem, that's a type of Avodah Zarah. When somebody imagines that he's serving another reality that's happening elsewhere, and he has to serve here so that reality becomes better, that's Avodah Zarah. That's serving your imagination. And this is why people can go so far out with their beliefs and become evil. Evil. Like we've seen in history, people are claiming to serve God, they're claiming to serve the truth, and they turn into evil. How does it turn to evil? Because they're not serving God. They're saying the words, I'm serving God, but they're serving their own imagination. They're serving an imagined God. Reality is the only world God created. And this reality can be perceived from different angles, and these are the different realities. But it's not somewhere else. It's not somewhere else. It's worlds of potential that are manifesting, and then you perceive wherever your level is. But it's not happening elsewhere. If a person imagines it elsewhere, then everything becomes possible. All evil opens up, because now his imagination is in charge of God. And that's something you do not want. Only the seichel, only what's true, only what's real is God. Everything else, we make that up with our own minds, and it becomes dangerous. So when people feel like, they know enough, they have to be kanoim, they have to show other people how to do it and all that, usually they're just serving their imagination. Their imagination is telling them that their understanding is so important that they're allowed to ride over other people for that. In reality doesn't give you that permission. Reality knows, when somebody's connected to reality, they know that people create reality. When you offend people, you're offending HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Mishnah says, Kol sheruach habriyas lo yechamenu, ruach hamokim lo yechamenu. You want to know if you're with the truth, you want to know if you're real? Look at the people, look how they respond to your behavior, to your speech, to your thoughts. If they're offended, it's not because they have it wrong. It's not because they have it wrong. If they're offended, it's not because they have it wrong they get offended. It's because the person that's doing it, the person that's shelling out his wisdom where it's not required, is not connected to the truth. And therefore, the people who are true are not attracted to his message. So the truth has a certain resonance within the person, that when he sees it, he recognizes it. So before, I think in this generation, how can we ever say that we understand enough, we know life enough to know that this or that or the other has no room? We don't know. We don't know. And that's the first reality that we have to become comfortable with. We don't know. So as long as we're nice, as long as we're dealing with reality in a comfortable way, so our not knowing is not going to turn against us. We can stay friends with not knowing. But as soon as we start arguing and we start taking positions that we don't need to, and we try to create things out of bricks and cement where there's really nothing, so then we lock ourselves into a reality that we don't necessarily know how to get out of. So the not knowing is your freedom. Until you know, you don't know. If you don't know, then everything you know can't be used against you, because it shouldn't be. So the Torah is Maaseh Bereshis. The Torah, in order to free you from all the different demyonis, how we're going to free you? By teaching you the wisdom of what's real. And then every time something wants to bother you, you come back to reality and it won't be able to chase after you there. And that's why the Torah has such big segulas. V'chol besore marper, heals your entire body. Achash b'rosh yasik b'Torah, right? Everything that goes wrong with you, learn Torah. Why? Because if you learn Torah, you come back to reality. You'll recognize what's real and what's not real. And the odds are, when you recognize what's real and what's not real, your problem is going to disappear. So the Torah is a tfus of Maaseh Bereshis. K'mishamer Bereshis Rabbah, ki mekor hachayis, shekol chelka nivrom, klolei mifrateim, v'chol sheniyem echad leneder, shelo yeh chelik atzmis chayisa b'toich divrei Torah. It says, the Torah is the source of life. And when we talk about the Torah, we're talking about the Torah in sichlius. The sichlius of this world is the source of life for all the different nivroim, the klolim and the protim and all the differences. There's not a single thing that happens in this world that doesn't have chayas from the Mekar HaSeichel. Because if you were going to try to imagine a creature that doesn't have chayas from the Mekar HaSeichel, how's he going to know what to be? How's it going to have any properties? How's it going to have any definitions? There needs to be seichel involved. And once the seichel is involved, that's the juice of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the flow from beyond. the seichel that's within everything and gives it its properties, gives it its limits, gives it its shape, gives it its texture. Everything that it has is given from somewhere, and that includes a human being. The physical body, the complexity of it all, the organs, how does it know? How does it know what to do? How does it know how to create itself? Because the seichel is active within it. It's an active seichel, seichel apoil. It's not just seichel, abstract seichel. It's active seichel. It's seichel that manifests into being. It's seichel that manifests into existence. So we have a world of concept, which is the neshama, and it's manifesting into a world of form, which is the gashmius. And the concept and the form, which is also sometimes called the tzura and the chomer, they have to learn how to get along with each other. Otherwise there's friction between the tzura and the chomer, between the concept and the physical realities that it manifests into. And this concept, to understand how this concept manifests and how to do it right, that's what the Torah is for. The Tfus Ma'aseh Bereishis, it's the blueprint of how you were created out of nothing. And everything else the same way. So we say, how do we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu created out of nothing? Maybe created out of something. Everything that is pretty much created out of nothing. So if you understand that a seed can become such a complex being, a seed, a tiny dot that's not even visible, only under a microscope, can become such a complex being, and it can talk and think and decide and argue and think of itself that who knows what it is. The fact that this could happen shows you that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can create anything he wants out of nothing. Because you essentially came out of nothing. As far as we're concerned, we came out of nothing. As far as science can see, as far as science can dissect that tiny little dot and tell us what's in it, you can't explain this. So as far as science is concerned, we come out of nothing. As far as the spirit is concerned, we come out of nothing. If, for anybody, the fact that it comes out of a tiny dot is significant, it changes how they feel about it, so that just shows you how much they live in the imagination, where they're like, but it's no different. Adarabah, this tiny dot just shows you the chokhmah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, that within one, he himself can create another one with all the properties that he has in him. He can pass it on. He can pass on his destiny. He can pass on his whatever he was working on throughout his lifetime. It can have continuance. So this is an even deeper creation. This is an even more complex creation, where an individual, a person, can recreate himself. And this is all natural. This has been around before you were born. This is not new. It's just that we don't think about reality in those terms. We're so busy. But what are we busy with? And after we think about what we're busy with, let's think about who is busy. Who? You don't even know who is busy. He's so busy that he doesn't even know who he is. So the Torah wants to wake us up. The Torah wants us to realize that Ma'aseh Bereishis is a chokhmah. Ma'aseh Bereishis is not something that you can understand in just reading a book. Ma'aseh Bereishis is something that you can only understand if you ponder it, day and night, yomam v'loila. Because the first thing that's going to happen before you can understand Ma'aseh Bereishis is you have to forget all the Ma'aseh Kishufim that your head is already deeply steeped into. All these different poles and different thoughts and different ideas and different desires that don't help nothing. They're not going to take you nowhere. But it's enough to confuse somebody so he can't think. It's enough to keep him busy so that he doesn't know who's busy. So the Torah has all the Chelka Nivroim, all the Klolim and all the Protim and all the changes. Everything is described within the Torah. V'zeh inyan kizvu lechem es hashira azois, Reb Tzodok mikol haTorah kula, Ve'ene loshen zemer v'shir. That a person shouldn't be mezalzel in the Torah, saying that it's a song. David HaMelech called the Torah a song, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't appreciate it. Because any zilzal that a person has in the Torah ends up being a zilzal in himself. And the neshama is a bas melech. The neshama is extremely sensitive. The neshama knows immediately when you've offended her, she knows. And even though she doesn't respond in words, she goes into hiding. She's upset. And in order for a person to reconnect with his neshama, in order for a person to undo the damage that he did, he needs to ask her forgiveness. I think we've all heard the different metaphors that they have with the Mishalim, with the Bas Melech that grew up and her king's only purpose was to please her and to make sure that she gets the right education and the right wisdom and all that. But eventually she ends up married to a simple man that beats her and kicks her around and has no respect for what she is or who she is. And she's just crying. She's just crying, you know. How can you leave me with this guy? Well, the simple guy is us. And the Bas Melech is the neshama that's stuck inside of us, listening to us. And she doesn't like it one bit. She doesn't like the way we see people. This is why she's not alive. So in order to make peace with the Bas Melech, first of all, we need to recognize the true story over here. We need to recognize that we have no right to talk down to ourselves. We have no right to talk down to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. Just because she's stuck and she can't fight back doesn't mean that we can do whatever we want. The day will come when she will shine, when her truth will be known, and where will we be? So the Bas Melech needs to be respected. And once a person learns how to respect the Bas Melech in himself and the Bas Melech in all the others, then he needs to start asking forgiveness for every time that he was mezalzel in her. He has good excuses. It was me, my parents, it's my teachers, it's my friends, it was other people, everybody's like that. Okay, make your excuses, but you still need to ask for forgiveness. You were the one who did the damage. You were the one who took all that and translated it into, okay, what Hashem gave me is no good. It doesn't work. It's broken. It can't be. It can't be. We're just not looking at it from where it's supposed to be looked at. We've made a story up, and we ruin our lives with our own story. So the Bas Melech, she wants to go home. She wants to be treated the way that she needs to be treated. She's extremely forgiving. She's extremely ready to listen and to change and to try again and to open up. But there needs to be sincerity. If the person is not sincere, then she doesn't want to do it. She's been disappointed too many times already. So in the beginning, it's a game of convincing. There has to be a piyus. And this is how we do every davening. The Baal Shem Tov says that when we shackle by davening, we shackle by Shemona Esrei, because it's a time of yichud. It's just like when a man is with a woman, the same thing by Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei is a time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is misyached with the neshama, so she can get whatever she wants. But that happens through piyus. And the piyus is the psikah de zimra, and the whole seder that leads up to the Shemona Esrei, where a person is meratza and mefayis his neshama, that she's in a world that's not so bad. Because truly and really, Hoidi Lashem Kiru B'Shmoi, Hoidi B'Amam Aliloisav is not as bad as we say he is. Right? That's the goal of the Psikha de Zimra, that we should recognize. And when we recognize and we respect our neshama happens to have access to the whole candy store. Your entire body. She created it. She knows every nook and cranny. Otherwise it wouldn't exist. The only reason she can't run it the way that she should, the only reason she can't run it so that everything is smooth and everything is flowing, is because we've taken the juice out of her. And when a person's mefayis his neshama, his experience will be very, very, very different. Because she is capable of healing. She's capable of changing the experience. She's capable of balancing the brain. She's capable of revealing herself to the individual, to the conscious mind. All these things could happen, but only when a person recognizes how to be mefayis his very own being, that's giving him life, that's living inside his body. And the one that's blocking is the identity living in our thoughts that's not real. He is not the neshama. The one that we've identified as the guy who does this and that, and he's like this and he's like that, and sometimes this, and so he has all these problems and all these issues and all. That guy is made up. He's fictitious. He doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. If a person would die, all those things would become irrelevant in a split second. It's because it's not real. When you die, you don't go away from reality. You actually go to visit reality. Here is where you run away from reality. Here you can think. Here you have a brain. You can make up whatever you want. Over there, the truth is king. So when we say, it means because it's a lie. Because it's a lie. That's why you can't take it with you, because you're just imagining it. Just because your eyes can see it, you're imagining it as if it's inside of you, but it's not. It can't go in there. It's a different currency. What your eyes can see is not you. Your eyes are there to serve you so that you can stay alive, so you can survive, so you can do what you have to do. But when a person identifies with what he sees and he thinks that it's real, oh, I saw it, it's real, I was there, I was here, I had this, I had that. Where is it? You don't have nothing. It's an experience. It's not you. So to the extent the experience built you, to the extent the experience helped you, so you were kind of something, because that's you. Now the inside has changed. But to the extent you just saw, you just listened, you just enjoyed, and there was nothing different, there was no recognition, there was no realization, then you have nothing. The experience didn't last. It was just temporary. It was just a few seconds. And that's not real. That's not real. So the Torah wants to bring us back to reality, to the place where we are successful. Why are we successful? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us life. That already makes you a success. You already have everything you could possibly need. And then what's left to do is to survive, to eat, to sleep. And in the meantime, your mind, your consciousness is capable of experiences that you cannot imagine. But only if you're ready to leave everything you know behind. Only if you're ready to leave this made-up person, this fictitious individual that's sucking all your energy out, that's just stuck in your conscious mind, but he doesn't really have existence, you have to get rid of him. Like Tzadikim said on the pasuk, Anoichi oimed ben Hashem evenechem. Anoichi, the self that you've created, oimed ben Hashem evenechem, it stands between you and reality. It stands between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is the Anoichi, that's Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. There is the Anoichi, that's the real self. That's the self that's actually living and manifesting inside of you. And there is the Anoichi that you made up with your own mind. He's like this, he's like that. Why does he always have to be this way? Why does he always have to be that way? Why is this no good? Why is that no good? That's not real. There's nobody like that exists. And when the spirit leaves the body, it's just like a bad dream. All that stuff goes away. It's like it never happened. But what's the real problem? The real problem is that in that same time, we were supposed to manifest life. This was our chance. This is life. It's happening. It's real. And simply by being distracted, we didn't get to manifest our life. We didn't get to be who HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. So he's saying that the inyan of the shir, the rosh shir, is not like a song, but a rosh shir is dover hamakif seder v'hakev as an inyan. So a shir means a full circle. K'moi kol ba'alei ashir yotzim b'shir. V'chen zema v'nigen, the reason it's called a shir is because it's makif kol chelke atnuas v'siduram. It has a certain seder, it has a certain way of how it goes. V'shir sazinim akefes kol ha'koimes livnei Yisrael v'chol ha'doiris. V'seder HaHaKoV'S nikra shira. So the shir of all the doiris of Klal Yisrael, to understand how they come from being the Ovois and going through Mitzrayim to becoming a perfect nation, to becoming a perfect society, that's called shira. V'chol ha'Torah kula koleles seder hekef kol ha'chaim asher al pnei adama seder chiyusam shel kol prat ha'nevram al kei nikra shira. ובמוקם הזה בייחוד, אצל מצווס כזבו, אשר ניון הגילה מפורש וניקל לעין, ואני כמו שם ניקול העולם כאילו אלא נברא, אלא לצבס לזה וחילי כאודם אשר להם יסוד העולם, אשר אלב מטורס כל חלקי חי של כל הנברום, והיא כמרכז בתוך הגילוסם. So the person, the perfect person, he is the center of the universe. All the koiches were created in order to serve this individual. So the whole Torah surrounds this individual. Everything that exists surrounds this individual. Because the purpose of life is human life. The purpose of life is the ability for us to experience life. So I think I'm going to continue here after Purim. What's that? Tzaddik Yisod Olam. That's the same concept, that the purpose of life is the tzaddik. The tzaddik Yisod Olam also means that the tzaddik is the tziner through which the shefa comes into life. Right? It's because the tzaddik, by understanding life and by being connected to life, he brings life to others also. He becomes the mashpia. So the whole Torah surrounds this idea that humanity is at the top of the pyramid. And when we place humanity where they belong, if we're mekayim oiker enesh mipaz, then everything else will fall into place. Everything will start making sense. But as long as man is at the bottom of the totem pole, he's here to serve other purposes, other things, then life can never make sense. Because that's not how HaKadosh Baruch Hu envisioned it.